See my case.
All right, all right. Shabbat Shalom, family. Shalom. We're here for another blessed Saturday, another blessed Sabbath. Um, thank everybody for here. And if you see it later, we thank you again, right? So today's topic is it worth it? Right? A lot of people do a lot of things, and I don't think that they weigh the options, right? They don't weigh the option of their wages. They don't have to weigh the options of their sins. And I understand that, like, yeah, you got to pay for everything, right? Now, some things you pay for, it's in good reason, right? But other things you don't. So, like, for instance, people may have bad health problems, right? Not realizing they paying for this later, or it could be now, depending on the health problem. So, what they want to do is they'll get health insurance, right? But they don't change their way they act, right? They'll just complain about Trump or whoever the president is about having bad health care instead of changing their ways, changing their diet, changing where they live, things like that. So there's always a cost of something. This is basically the reap what you sow method. Some people talk about karma. The Bible doesn't speak about karma. Just reap what you sow. So whatever you put down into the ground, whatever you put into the earth, it come back, right? So you put bad stuff in, you can get bad stuff. You put good stuff in, you can get good stuff. It's pretty simple, right? But the world doesn't look at it that way, right? Because people get tied to their feelings and emotions. Somebody tried to offer me a watermelon not too long ago. I turned it down. They were kind of upset at me, but I was like, well, it's the one that's sprayed with pesticides. I don't want it, right? It makes me sick. Now, if that's what you can eat and it's worth it to you, hey, that's cool. If I got to spend an extra dollar or go the extra mile or two to get this watermelon make me safe, that's what I'm gonna do, right? But that's just me measuring out if things are worth it. Same thing with sins, right? I said you commit a sin, we all struggle with temptations and you fall into sins, but think about the sin and think about how worth it is, right? What's the penalty? What's it gonna cost you, right? Is it costing you time? Is it costing you a disconnect from God? What is it costing you, right? So I'm gonna talk about worth itself in general, and I'm gonna show you some scriptures about people making decisions, and you guys can decide if it was worth it or not, right? So I'm gonna read the Lord's Prayer, and then we're gonna get started. So 1 second. Do, 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 do. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right. So it's church time. Is it worth it? So definition of the word worth, right? In the preposition form, it says good or important enough to justify what is specified. Advice worth taking. Having a value of or equal in value as in money. This vase is worth $12. Having property to the value or amount, they are worth millions, right? In the noun form, it says excellence of character or quality as command and esteem women of worth. Usefulness or importance as to the world, to a person or for a purpose. Your worth to the world is an estimable. Apologies, right? So with that being said, right, I tell people all the time they may feel like something's worth it, but in reality, things are only worth what we put importance to, right? So I'll give you an example. You may have, give me 1 second. So the worth, The worth is based off of what we put upon it, right? So don't let nobody tell you something is worth more than what you believe it is through God's eyes, right? Because it could be worth more than what you want in your own eyes, but that's just not how it works. So for instance, right, a Honda Accord might be $30,000, $40,000 right now. And then you got like a Lamborghini, which is $500,000, right? They're both cars. They do the same thing. They go from one place to one place, right? But is the Lamborghini really worth $500,000? In my opinion, it's not, right? But people will pay for it, so that determines their worth, right? But in reality, they've used this word worth and they've used it wrong, right? It doesn't have no importance, right? But the importance is what they think it has, right? So there's no difference from you having the Lamborghini or Honda and it being of some importance, right? The importance is what you put onto it. So when you're reading the Word of God and you're dealing with sin and struggle, now you got to decide what's important in your life and what's not, right? $1 million car is necessarily not important. Doesn't mean you can't have one if you have the money or the means to do so, but that's necessarily not important, right? It's replaceable. It's going to tarnish. And the value, you lose the value as soon as you get it, right? So we got to think about all those things. So in the first scripture is Romans chapter 6, verse 23. It says, "For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Yeshua the Mashiach our Lord," right? So say the wages of sin is death, right? Being as though when you do sin, right, the wages are death, right? So you can be dying physically and you can be dying spiritually, right? And it doesn't mean, like I said, you won't struggle with temptations, which I'm gonna go over. You won't struggle with temptations, and you may fail, right? So the righteous man falls 7 times and get back up, right? But the wicked, they're not gonna do all that. But it also determines what you feel is important, right? What's important to you, what's important to God, right? Because they're not the same all the time, Now, if you're following what's important to God, then of course, but what's important to you may not be the same as important to God. Like I said, some people want $1 million, bajillion-dollar house, right? Like I said, it's fine, which is in the means, but in reality, you just want protection. You just want shelter. You want a roof over your head, things like that. We don't see it that way because, like I said, worth is determined not by what God tells you it is, by the world, but worth has importance. Remember that worth isn't necessarily a money value. In Proverbs, they talk about a woman. In 31, it talks about a woman as her being worth more than rubies, right? Which is supposed to be like a really high value precious stone, which it is, right? In the world today, it's more precious than diamonds and stuff. That's why you don't see a bunch of people with ruby necklaces and things like that. But if her worth is more valuable than rubies, that should just tell you how much the worth is, right? Or tell you how it's measured. It's not measured in dollars. So we got to stop measuring things in dollars and measure things along in the spirit, right?
Or coffee. Mother was wronged in the worst way.
All right, so I'm going to show you this video. Somebody told me about. I finally found it. And I'm telling you about what's worth it. So this lady is 75 years old, and she wound up dying in a coffee shop. But I'm going to play the video, and I'm going to talk about it after I play it.
Or coffee. Mother was wronged in the worst way.
75-year-old Anita Grayson's daughter says her mother's death last Wednesday left her angry and frustrated with a lot of questions.
I lost the matriarch of my family.
Police say they responded to an altercation at this Tim Hortons around 8 in the morning, finding Grayson unresponsive. She was later pronounced dead.
I just called out to God, like, we need to see it. I have to see that. Please show me, because I need to at least know how, why, what.
She says an anonymous person texted this video from inside to another family member. She posted it online. Others reposted, calling for arrests and protests.
You should not enter a coffee shop for a coffee and a donut and come out unalived. That is diabolical.
Police are now releasing the surveillance video and a narrative of what they say happened. Police say Grayson came inside the restaurant to complain about a drive-through order. They say Grayson, quote, berated a teenage employee. They say a 20-year-old employee stepped in and told Grayson to leave. Police say the older employee tried to block Grayson from getting to the teen. But Grayson responded by forcefully shoving her backward and striking her in the face. Police say the worker, quote, moved toward Grayson, swinging her arms in an attempt to strike her. Police say Grayson scratched the employee's face, knocked off her glasses, and pulled out a chunk of her hair. In the video Grayson's daughter released, we see her get up and walk around for a while before it ends. Police say an employee gave her a cup of water, but by the time officers arrived, Grayson was unresponsive.
It could have been your mother.
Grayson's daughter is not satisfied. She says her mom should still be alive today, and she's calling for more action.
That's the elderly lady. That's not how we treat our senior citizens. We be careful with them. We make sure that they're all right. We don't jump on them and attack them and scare them to death.
Now, police say the investigation will be turned over to the Allen County Prosecutor's Office for review.
Mother.
All right. So it reads, update, 75-year-old woman's cause of death listed as heart attack after viral Tim Hortons fight. Daughter speaks out, you should not enter a coffee shop and come out unalive. All right, so the part wasn't shown in this one. There was a couple of different videos. But this one showed a lot more than the other one, but it left out some things. So her mom already had heart problems. They didn't tell you about that, but when you watch it and go look up at the research yourself, you'll see she had heart problems, right? But I say this to say, is it worth it or not? So I guess she got the wrong food. It happens all the time. I tell people all the time, we at the restaurants, whatever thing, just check your food. People make mistakes, especially when you order something that's different. I was in the carryout the other day. Are you familiar with Chinese places and restaurants? There's a meal called pepper steak. This guy said, can I get a pepper steak without the steak? I'm not even sure why he ordered that. But anyway, it happens, whatever. So a mistake was made. And I guess I'm not so sure what happened or whatever the case may be. But the part about it being worth it, now God took her life, right? So not so sure why, but maybe God was done with her. I don't know, right? But that's just to say, was it worth it, right? I've had my food, I guess you could say messed up, ordered some food and it was wrong. Sometimes they may put bacon on it or things like that, right? All I do is go back in there and I say, yeah, it's not right. What's going on? Can y'all exchange my food? If you can't exchange my food, I'll just take my money back. It's not a problem. I'll go somewhere else. Would I be upset or mad I got to go somewhere else? It's possible, right? But there's no need for no confrontation. Now, she's on here saying that her mother was unalive and was wrong, what's going on, but she's not mentioning the part that her mom was wrong. Going in there, screaming and cursing. Now, you showed in the video, she pushes the lady in her face, or they would say smooch, and they start altercating, right? Or start fighting. So just because she's an older or elder, she got to respect people too, right? But like I said, is it worth it? People make a lot of decisions, and I tell people all the time, yeah, you might want to fight this person or you might want to do this, but the problem is you can't pick your consequences. So you have no idea, who you running into, who you smacking, who you disrespecting, who you cursing. You don't know any of these things, who you sleeping with, who you decide to marry, right? This is why you should always ask God or measure the worth to God, right? Because you don't know what you could be running into, right? So I just show you that video just to show y'all that, hey, anything's possible, but at the same time, anything's possible with God. Man, it's impossible, right? But you don't know what's going on. You can't see the future. You can't see the end. But just start valuing things when you come up to certain aspects in your life and determine, is it worth it, right? Is it worth it buying this item? Is it worth going to this place? Is it worth hanging out with these people? Is it worth those things, right? This is Hebrews chapter 11, verse 25. It says, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, right? That may not be worth it to somebody to sit here and suffer. And, people always say me to life, oh, you're boring. You don't do anything. That would be considered the afflictions with the people of God, right? Instead of enjoying the pleasures for a certain season. Yeah, you might want to smoke. Yeah, you might want to drink. You might want to do all these bad things, but is it worth it? Right? Because during that season of sin that you're doing, it could be a short season. It could be a month, 2 months, a week or two, right? How much penalties may come from that? And people don't look at that like that, right? They'll just look at it as based off of, oh, well, this is fun. We're going to do it while the moment, not knowing if God going to take your life or whatever. Like, I'm pretty sure the lady walked in, she probably knew she was going to die. Even though she really had heart problems, which is a red flag already, she probably thought she was going to die. She probably thought she was going in, cuss her way out, cuss her way in, and then, get what she want. Probably wanted her money back and a coffee. Who knows? I don't know. But we got to think about those decisions, right? When we out here making them. This is 2 John 1, verse 8. It says, look to yourselves that we lose not those things which we have wrought, but that we receive the full reward, right? So the things that you work for, you don't want to lose them, right? But you don't necessarily hold on to material things. But just think about stuff that you work for, you could lose it. So let's say you've been working, you're asking God for money. I've been through this, right? And then some temptation come along, right? You might want to go look at some adult videos, or you might want to go hang out with your friends at the bar and, buy expensive drinks and stuff like that. But all this money you've been working for, God and gave it to you. Is it worth you doing this, right? All the stuff that you work for, is it worth you doing that? And like I said, that's the importance part. Is it really important for you to do this sin? Is it important for you to do this leisure? Is it important for you to eat this food, right? Because sometimes a lot of people do these things because they try and make others around them happy. Oh, well, I don't want it to happen, so I just went ahead and did it. Even though it's against God, even though it's against worthiness or real high importance, you'll still do it. You don't want to live your life like that, right? This is Proverbs chapter 12, verse 15, right? This one reads, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth to the counsel is wise. So you're listening to good words, right? You become a little wiser. But when you just, everything is right in your own eyes, like I said, worth changes, right? Because now it's worth it to you, right? So let's say you got to go beat somebody up. So like her, she wanted to go get that coffee back or whatever she did, that was worth it to her, right? But that's because she wise in her own eyes. I would never tell none of my friends, hey, man, go in there and slap somebody, or go in there and just like, hey, just ask them for the, for your refund, or ask them, can they exchange the food? Like I said, it happens. Happens all the time, right? Somebody get my food, I just check it, make sure it's right. If it's wrong, hey, we need to switch. If you can't switch it, you can have it back and just give my money back, right? No harm, no foul. But people will always do these things, right, and not realizing the worth. But to me, the problem is because the worth isn't measured by importance. It's measured by like a desire of sin, or what's big for you. And we got to think about that. That's not how worth is. That's not the definition I showed you, right? Romans chapter 12, verse 19. It says, dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. So let's say somebody did you wrong, right? And you want to get back at them. You might go out, try to fight somebody, beat somebody up because somebody said something about your son or your daughter or your brother, right? I used to be like this all the time before I found God. You say something about mines or whatever, we got to go to the scene. Not realizing, even though I do realize it, we can go to jail, we can die, all these things can happen, right? But we put in this worth of importance, not realizing if it was something that bad, they let God do it. I had people steal from me and all that. I could steal from them back. I can go back and harm them. It's no point, right? And God would want me to do that, right? If he did want me to do that, I would have done it. But God don't go back and say steal from them or hurt them or kill them or whatever. Hey, vengeance is mine. I got it. Don't worry about it, right? Because we might lost $200 and we over here fighting, risking our life for $200, right? And now somebody's in jail for $200, or somebody's unalived in the box in the grave for $200. Now families are hurting. People are mourning all over $200, $20, $30, $40. Even if it's $1 million, I don't think it's worth it, right? Because you can't replace this person. Money comes and goes, objects, things like that come and go, but not people, right? Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11. It says, now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. Right? So basically what it's saying is like you having discipline, it'll pay off eventually in the long run, right? Because you'll have this righteousness, this fruit that people won't have, compared to people not wanting to be disciplined and not trying to fight, not trying to walk away. They're going to pay for that, right? They don't see it now because that's how always Satan is. Satan is Satan. This is how Satan is to me. Hey, man, you come to the restaurant, get whatever you want. Nah, don't worry about it. This you can afford it, bro. You do all this stuff. You buying everything, and when the bill come, you look in your pocket, you got $100, but the bill say $1 million. And you like, man, I cannot afford this. And you like, well, I need money somehow. So then you become a slave to him, right? People do that to each other, right? They'll buy something for you, they'll sponsor something for you, and then once you know, you want to buck the system or whatever, they like, well, you owe me. I did this, and that, right? And if you want to be a slave of Christ, you can be a slave of Christ too. And you do owe God, and all God wants you to do is follow His commandments, right? So His burden is light; it's not grievous. But when you come to the world, right, it's going to be grievous because they'll get you to do all these pleasures and sins and things because, like I said, they're not telling you the worth, right? All these foods you eat, I tell you all the time, I've changed my diet, and I'm not going to lie to you and be like, oh yeah, this and that. So I drink these little ginger root sodas, and they're pretty good. But I know food, it's not better than a Sprite. It's not better than a Coke, but it's healthier, so it is better. So now the worth of it has changed to me because this is helping me still maintain my physical gifts, my physical life, right? My health is still intact because I'm drinking something better. Taste wise, no, right? But overall, it has a better worth, right? And it costs more doesn't mean that's why it's worth more. Like I tell you all the time, just because it costs more doesn't mean it's worth more, right? And we can't deflate the two because, I mean, Gucci, Louis, they make shirts that cost $300-400. It's just a T-shirt, really, you know. Me having sold clothes and stuff, understanding it, like this purse ain't $50,000. You think it costs $50,000 to make a purse? The purse had to be made out of gold for that. If it's made out of gold, I understand. I'll get a $50,000 purse for somebody, right? Because I'm like, well, that thing's gonna worth something, but it's not, right? The value is what people put it onto it, and that's what they think it's worth, right? And their brain will like, I made it, or I did this or did that. Be disciplined. It's not that you don't need that, right? Some things you can be cheap on, some things you can't. But when you buy things, don't waver the cheapness, don't waver the money necessarily, waver the importance. Will it hold its weight? Will it hold its value? Will it hold its purpose? Right? Because there's got to be a purpose, and then you got to think about the purpose of why you buying it. Did you buy the Lamborghini because you needed a car? Nah, you bought the Lamborghini because you wanted to show off. So that was the purpose. I bought this Honda, I bought this Toyota, I bought this and needed to drive a car. So the purpose is I need a car that's reliable. That's the purpose, right? If somebody buys a $100,000 chain with diamonds that when you turn it in, it's not worth $100,000 no more because it was custom made. What was the purpose? If you buy a regular gold chain, yeah, you might want to, show off or look nice. That's fine. But it can also have the purpose of you having some type of collateral for yourself because of the value of the whole, right? So some things got its own worth, other things we put onto it. But always think about the importance when you're making a decision, right? So this is James chapter 1, verses 13 through 18. It says, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil. Neither tempteth he any man, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Thus, when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Of his own will begat he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures, right? So God's saying, hey, I don't tempt nobody. So any temptation you going through, that ain't God, right? The temptation is from the devil. He sees something, he asks God, I want to tempt him. God's saying, cool. Now, while you're being tempted, God is also giving you a way out, right? He's going to give you that scapegoat. He's going to give you that exit door, right? So you can't blame any sin that you do on God or saying, oh, well, God did this. God ain't tempt nobody. Because that would be wrong for God to tempt you and then also hold you accountable for the tempt that you or the sin that you committed when he was the one pushing it. He don't do that. He give you the way out, right? So with worth, that's how worth will work, right? God's gonna give you something that's good, right? In verse 17, this is every good gift, every perfect gift is from above. So now, let's say you measuring something about worth. Is it from God? Is it good? Is it perfect? What is the things and the characteristics of this item or whatever it is? This item, this phone call, this job, this money you receive. What's the worth? What's the worth of something that you're trying to buy? What's the worth of something you're looking for, right? What is it going to do? What are you buying something like a motorcycle to keep you away from sin? Are you buying a video game to keep you away from sin? Right? What are you doing? What's the worth? And I don't think we measure that. Right? So like I eat certain foods. Sometimes, it may be a food I never had, right? But as long as it's lawful, I won't mind trying it. But let's say I eat a food that's lawful and it gives me some type of bad reaction, and it's great. It's 100% one of the best foods I ever tasted in my life. But it gives me a bad reaction. It makes my gums bleed or something like that. That's not worth it to me no more. So now when I'm looking forward to get something or whatever, that's something I won't do because it's not worth it no more. Right? But that's how I'm valuing it. It's the importance. Yeah, I like food, but I can get something else a little more milder that's not as bad. Right? Like I said, the soda, for instance, a Sprite's really bad. It tastes better, but it's really bad. It makes me feel fat. It makes me feel bloated. There's so many different things. This soda, it don't got all these same side effects, right? And it may have some side effects, but the worth is different because now it's not costing me as much compared to what the Sprite did, right? Or the Pepsi or whatever. Now, that doesn't mean I won't have one, right? But I realize I can't have this every day like I could probably have this other soda. Or if I'm eating this organic fruit, I can eat this organic fruit every day. I can't eat the other stuff every day. It makes me sick. It causes a bad reaction. But yeah, it lasts so long. It might last long because it's probably all, preservative out. So the fact that it's lasting that long, that changes a whole lot, right? So we got to think about those things. Anything that you feel like is worth, if you're confused about it, ask God about it. Measure it, weigh it, right? Don't just go off your own understanding. Don't go off your own wisdom, right? Because our wisdom is foolishness of God anyway. But we'll do that because it's our worth, right? And our wisdom isn't necessarily based on God's wisdom, because God's wisdom is the fear of Him, right? Different kind of wisdom. Our wisdom is mixed in with sin. It's mixed in with desires and pleasures. So if that's the case, 9 times out of 10, the purpose is going to be a really bad purpose when you mix stuff up like that, right? So this is Luke chapter 14, verse 28 through 30. For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest haply after he have laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. So this is Christ talking, right? So it should have been in red. But this is Christ talking. And he's saying, like, look, you're going to try to build a house, right? But you only got the money, right? You can't lay no foundation down, right? That's the first thing. You try to build a house, ain't no foundation been laid down. And we do that a lot. We do that with relationships. We do that with jobs. We do that with so much, right? You just go straight to the house. You don't know what the house built on, right? Or you start a relationship with somebody. Oh, I like this person. I like them. They cute. Or, we went to the store. We was at the bar. We was vibing. It was good times, right? That's probably what your foundation is built off of. To me, that's a bad foundation. Can it work? Yeah, if you go back, destroy the house, refix it a little bit, make upgrades, but it's going to constantly work. Instead of just having a solid foundation, which is the rock, which is Christ, right? And then just build up from there. But when you don't do that, right, now you're going to find out this worth is a little different, right? Because you ain't think about the worth, right? You ain't think about how important it was. What you saw was yourself being lonely. I want a girlfriend. Why you want a girlfriend? Because you sexual desire lonely, or is it spiritual lonely? You got all these problems. Talk to God first, because God may want to give you somebody, but not this person. God may not want to give you somebody because this might not be right for you at all, right? But to you, it's worth that. To you, it's important. So like I said, when we look at those things, do we have the money to support this person? We got the money to do this. We want to get a relationship, right? Cool, no problem. You ain't got no money. Can't go out on no dates, right? You can't even have a home, right? You can barely pay for your own stuff. Why you want to be shackled up with somebody or being in a date? And I get it. Like I said, people are lonely, things like that. But hey, that's a recipe for disaster, man. You don't want to do that, right? But you ain't think about that where if you talk about what's worth to you, right? That you may want sex, you may want attention, you may want love, you may want affection, you may want all these things. But you ain't think about when I get with this person, they not good with money. And you find it out later, and I can't when we struggling to pay the bills. Or you get with this person, you find out secretly they do some type of drugs or some other stuff, right? All this stuff wasn't measured because that wasn't thought about what it was worth. There was no importance to all that. What was important was to fulfilling your needs and your desires. You never measured it. You never thought about, hey, should I do this? Should I do that? Nah, I'm gonna just get a house. I'm gonna be in a $30,000 loan, a 30-year loan. I'm sorry, right? And then probably switch it, sell it, right? Not making no money. The bank making money. You ain't making no money, right? Won't think about none of those things because everything for us is carnal because we're not living in the spirit. So this is 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 40. It says, let all things be done decently and in order, right? So it said decently and in order. I love when the Bible does this and put an and in between it. People will just see one thing and they'll forget about the other thing, or they'll see, and vice versa, right? The first thing is cool, not the second thing. So it's telling you to do both. Like I was telling you about baptism. You got to believe and you got to get baptized. You can't just believe and not get baptized. You can't just get baptized and not believe. They go together. So just like that, everything that's done decently and it's in order. So God has a structure too. So let's say you think you do everything decently, but it's out of order. It don't work. Or let's say you do everything decently, but you know what I'm saying? Or you're doing everything in order, but it's not done decently, right? So I'll give you an example. You can have a family. You can have a mother, a wife, or whatever the case may be, kids, but the wife run the household, right? But everything is done, quote unquote, decently, right? That's wrong. Or I can have the order, right? You can have like a cartel business, right? Everybody's in their rank, everybody doing their position, but they killing people selling drugs. So they in order, but they're not even doing decent things. You got to do both things, right? Everything got to be lined up. But like I said, when you're doing both things, they'll have a worth to it. And I'm going to show you right here in Titus. So this is Titus chapter 3, verses 9 through 11. It says, but avoid foolish questions and genealogies and contentions and strivings about the law, for they are unprofitable and vain. A man that is a heretic after the first and second admonition reject, knowing that he that is such is subverted and sinneth, being condemned of himself, right? So sometimes you're talking to people for no reason, right? You in stupid arguments. People arguing about cartoons. People arguing about sports players. People arguing about celebrities. They don't even know y'all, right? And y'all arguing about them. Y'all in their life. Y'all in their business. Is it worth it, though? Is it worth knowing the size of Will Smith's baby or something? Like, is that worth it, bro? Is it worth it to know how many people Kim Kardashian slept with? Is that worth it, bro? Like, you worry about the wrong things. And I see people all the time will argue about these things, right? Mind you, their household broken, their family's broken, all these things is messed up, but they're arguing about these types of things, which to me is clearly stupid, right? But to them, it's not. But that's because they value this differently. Like I said, their worth, they don't understand what worth means. Like I said, some people hear words they don't understand. Like people say, they'll say dudes are sassy. I just found out sassy don't got nothing to do with a girl or a boy, right? But people will say all the time, you sassy. But that word's been used and used out of context. And a lot of people use that word out of context with definitions, right? Not realizing you don't know what that means. It's the same thing with worth. You don't understand what worth means. It means of importance. It's not about dollar value, because the same thing that is worth $1, like say I got a laptop I'm working on right now, right? It's $1,000 laptop, right? So is it worth $1,000? No, it costs $1,000. And people will say, well, it costs $1,000, that's what it's worth. Yeah, that's what I paid for it, right? But that doesn't mean that's what it's worth, because in a couple of years, they're saying laptop going to probably be half that, if even probably even less, right? So in reality, it's not really worth that. The worth comes from its importance of what I could do with it, or what importance what it is to be my life. So I might have a laptop and it's important for me to do it, to do these videos. Somebody might have a laptop because it's important for them to do their job, right? That's the value of it. That's the real worth, not how much the dollar amount. And we get confused by all those things. People were standing outside in line for the AP watches, a 500 watch. They was going to flip, probably make another, $1,500, $2,000. But you stayed outside for 5-6 days. Then let's say you didn't even get one. So now you wasted 5 days, but you could have made that same money you was trying to get doing something. Or you probably exhausted some of that money because you had to eat and do all these other things, right? And then you didn't even get it. You see the worth? Because now there's an importance factor. It's not about $1. So when we go through life, we're looking at these things with God. We got to understand, is it worth it financially? Is it worth it health-wise? Is it worth it mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or we just talking about the worth about how much it costs, right? So these are some examples about worth and what he was doing. So everybody knows the story of Judas. Judas sold out Christ for 30 pieces of silver, right? Which is probably like, I don't know, maybe like $20,000 or something nowadays, $30,000, right? Which isn't a lot of money, right? But that's what he felt was worth it at the time, right? So this is Matthew chapter 27, verse 3 and 5. So this is after he sold them out, right? It says, then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned and that I betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, what is that to us? See down to that. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple, and he departed and went and hanged himself, right? So this Judas one is really, really a good example, right? So Judas sold out, right? Got the money. People condemned him for it. So now in his brain, he like, well, I thought I was going to do the right thing because he's not really the savior. I thought they may have felt like that, but let somebody expose him. And then, once I sell the thing, he waiting for somebody to agree with him. So even the elders, right, that got him to do it, they like, hey, what that got to do with us? We don't care about all that. We paid you for your wages, whatever. So he looking at them like, oh, so y'all really don't even care though. Like I'm thinking like this might change, people is not working. So let alone did he not keep the money? First of all, he throws it back at them. And then he go hang himself. That wasn't worth it. The money that like I said, the money that he did it for, he didn't even use it. He didn't even spend the money. Still lost it. Still lost his life. Right? Now he took his own life, right? He probably wouldn't have died that way, but he took his own life. And he didn't even use the money. He ain't buy no new horse, no nothing. This man threw the money away after he realized what he done, because he realized the money at the time, right, it had worth to him. Well, it's the worth he thought it had. It had importance, but in reality, there wasn't no importance to it. It just had a dollar amount of value, and you was given over by your own lust. So you made a mistake, and we do this all the time, right, when buying items. Oh, let me buy this, let me buy that. Not realizing it doesn't have the same value amount, right? It's not worthy, but people put importance. You ever heard somebody say, it has sentimental value? Well, my favorite character on TV was Marlo at one time. He said, I don't care about sentiment, right? He just cared about the money value, because he realized, like, what does sentiment got to do? Because you can have somebody like, let's say your family member died. They may have like a teddy bear, right? You gonna hold on to this teddy bear forever because it's sentiment. It don't have no real importance. The only importance is how you make you feel. Because what happens when the teddy bear is not here, or somebody take the teddy bear, you will be broken, right? Because there was no real importance to this except for how you felt, which is your own beliefs, your own wisdom, your own desires, your own pleasures, and that could be really bad. At least the teddy bear was worth money or something, right? People don't see it that way, right? And they'll look at it differently. Like, would you turn your Xbox in or your PlayStation in for your chain? And I said, nah, I wouldn't. I would turn my chain in first. Not because I'm mad about the person who got it to me or whatever, but they looking at it sentimental. I'm not looking at it sentimental, right? Yeah, I don't want to turn in my PlayStation or my chain, but the reason why I'll turn in the chain is because it's going to hold its value. Once I open the box, and past 7 days, that PlayStation is done. The value of it is gone, right? They're going to give me half of that if I'm lucky. If I go to GameStop, I might get $20, right? It's done with, right? So I realize it doesn't have that value. The only value of it is it's important to me to play it. Or not even important, but that's what like the value of it is. It's just important to me to play it. But it doesn't have no real money value or nothing. So what's the worth of it? But people don't look at it like that. Just like Judas didn't look at it. He saw the 3 pieces of silver, and he like, man, he don't believe the Messiah. So in his brain, he'll probably sell out anybody that he don't believe the Messiah is. So he thinking to himself, hey, man, I can get silver all the time. I can have all these pieces of silver. I can get rich just selling out fake prophets. Because Christ wasn't the first person to come along and say he was the Son of God or things like that. That's one reason why they didn't believe him. So he like, hey, I sell him out. I'm good money, right? Another example. This is Genesis chapter 25, verse 29 to 34. So this is the story of Esau and Jacob. This is when Esau sells his birthright. It says, and Jacob saw pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thou Esau despised his birthright, right? So Esau sold his birthright to pay for some Campbell soup, right? He was like, I'm hungry. I don't care about no birthright. Now, mind you, a birthright, he the firstborn. So whatever his dad has, he inherits it. So let's say his dad got 100 acres. That's all his. His dad got all his cattle. That's all his. His dad got $100 million. That's all his. He sold all that for some soup. Then when it came to get the blessing, Jacob got the blessing for the birthright, and he didn't, and he was mad. But he had already recently just sold his birthright, right? At that time, it wasn't worth nothing to him. It wasn't no importance, right? And it probably still was. He just figured he could probably swindle his way out of it. It just didn't work this time, right? But he didn't see no importance of his birthright. He felt like the suit was more important than his birthright. And what's crazy is he probably could have just made it, right? That's the thing about faith. He could have just made it. Just, hey, I am famished. Maybe God give me some water, whatever. But even if you did, you could have made a better deal. Like, look, I can give you half of some of the stuff I got or a cow. He sold the whole thing for some soup. It wasn't worth it to him, right? He didn't see the importance. He felt like that soup was more valuable that particular day than something long run. And that's what we do for sin. We take something that short day and don't think about the long run, right? So you want to smoke, you want to fornicate, you want to do all these things. Oh, I'm going to just do it here, right? Not realizing the consequences. And then you probably keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And then 5 months later, man, I spent all that money doing this. Or I spent all that time wasted doing that, right? You didn't get that time to God, right? You didn't get that time to a good purpose. You got that time for a good feeling, a good reason, a good pleasure, right? But then, like I said, later, it'll come back to bite you. I know this because I've done it myself, right? Not realizing I had brought, a car, which I probably shouldn't have brought, but God let me buy it. And he probably let me buy it too, just because, hey, you think you're tough? Well, let's go find out. And I had an Audi, and I spent like maybe $3,000 on the car, I think, like $3,200. Man, this car was giving me so many problems. I probably spent like $13,000 extra just trying to fix the car, and still don't have a car. Don't have a car no more. It broke down, right? Then I wound up getting a Camry, and I thought about the money that I spent on the Audi. I could have probably put it into this Camry, and that was brand new, and the car been paid for. But what happened was my pleasures overtook everything. Yeah, so the car that I wanted, it looked nice to me. It looked cool, you get attention in it, stuff like that. But this car is also causing me problems, right? I didn't really measure the worth. I might not get as much attention as the Camry. It may not look as cool to me. It may not feel as cool to me, right? But it's more reliable, right? So now the importance of it is a lot better than that. Having a car isn't important, but when I didn't pick that first, I picked the way it looked or whatever the desires, right? So now I'm Toyota, Camry, Lexus all day, right? And some of them look good, right? But it's about the value. Is it worth it? I was talking to a guy at my job one day, and he was like, man, I need a new car, Jew. What should I do? And I said, I want you to get a Toyota. I like the way they look. I said, well, look, the Toyota is a reliable car. You complain about you having reliability issues with your, I think you had like a Kia or a Honda or something. Yeah, a Kia. And or I told him, hey, if you don't want that, you can have the car you choose, which is not a problem. I told this to my brother too. You can have a Benz, but it's gonna cost you, right? And I don't know if you're willing to pay that cost, because like I said, what's worth to you may not worth to me. That's not worth it to me, but it could worth it to you, right? But then in the long run, it may not be worth it. You just think it's worth it because your desire is overtaking it. You're not measuring yourself with God. You measuring that with your heart. And when you measure stuff with your heart, it's always gonna go bad. Jeremiah 17:9, your heart is evil, bro. It's wicked. So you always going to measure up things that you want and desire compared to what you really need, what's really good for you, what's really best, right? There's no way a soup is worth more than all your birthright blessings. No soup, right? So this is the final one. This is Acts, right? This is Ananias and Sapphira, right? So this is Acts chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. It says, but a certain man named Ananias with Sapphira, his wife, sold a possession and kept back part of the price. His wife also being privy to it and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why have Satan filled our heart to lie to the Holy Ghost and to keep back part of the price of the land? While it remained, was it not thy own? And after it was sold, was it not in thy own power? Why hast thou conceived this thing in thy heart? And thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God. And Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and gave up the ghost. And great fear came on all of them that heard these things. And the young men arose, wound them up, and carried him out and buried him. Right? Verse 7 through 12, it says, and it was about the space of 3 hours after when his wife, not knowing what was done, came in, and Peter answered unto her, tell me whether you sold the land for so much, as she said, yeah, for so much. Then Peter said unto her, how is it that you have agreed to tempt the Spirit of the Lord? Behold, the feet of them which have buried thy husband are at the door, and shall carry thee out. Then fell she down straightway at his feet, and yielded up the ghost. And the young men came in, found her dead, and carrying her forth, buried her by her husband. And a great fear came upon all the church, and upon as many as heard these things. And by the hands of the apostles were many signs and wonders wrought among the people. And they were all with one accord in Solomon's porch. Right? So the reason why I like this story is they wasn't punished, right, because they didn't give enough money. They was punished because of what they lied about, what they said they had. Right? So it doesn't specify what they said they had. So I'm going to just fill in the blank. This is not true. This is just an example. So let's say they had a house. All right. They sold it for $100K. They told them, hey, man, this is all we got. We got $20K for selling the house. This is what we want to donate. Right? Because to everybody else, it looks like they sold all their possessions. Right? Because in the same chapter, it's a lady who gives all she has, and she doesn't have a lot. Right, but she gives all she has, so they try to be like her because they like, man, that looks honorable. Mind you, God know how much they sold it for, and God know how much they giving up. Peter don't know this, right? The church don't know this, but that's what they're telling people, right? So he stands on it. God winds up killing him for lying, right? His wife come in, she stand on the same lie. If they was in the streets, they'd been perfect. They stood on the same lie because people don't do that in the streets. They all telling different stories, and that's why they get caught up. But they was in the streets, they've been perfect. But they're dealing with God at this point, right? But it was no purpose in lying. All they had to do is say, look, we sold the house for $100K. We got $20K to give y'all. The house was holding for $100K, so we still got $8K for ourselves. We got $20K. They didn't say that. They said we sold the house for $100K. They didn't tell nobody that. They said we sold the house for $20K. We're going to give you $20K because they wanted to look appealing, right? So it really wasn't worth it, right, to stand on and lie. Let alone she didn't know what happened, so she didn't know that he died or the situation how he died. She just came later, right? But she stood on the lie, right? Mind you, God knows everything. So no matter what you do, you mean the bathroom in the dark place, God can see at all times, right? You can't hide from God. No deeds good, no deeds bad. You can't hide from God. But was it really worth it for them to lie about that, right? There's no point. If you ain't got it, just say no. If you don't want to go here, just say no. If you want to do this, just say yeah. If you don't, say no. It's okay, right? But people, like I said, the worth. So instead of saying no because you're afraid of hurting somebody's feelings, right, you'll go do something. Now your whole day ruined because you're mad, you're upset, it's not a good day. Now you start looking back. Was this really worth it? It's too late. You ain't valued that at the beginning. If you did, you'd have known. Do I value my peace? Do I value my time? Do I value my money? Right? Measure those up. Then you make the decision. Don't make a decision based off somebody else, because then when you got sentiment, you got emotion, you got desires, and sin, you got all those, this is when you're going to make a bad decision. And when you look back at it, you're like, man, was that worth it? Right? You know, relationship with somebody who don't believe in God, I can change them. You can't change nobody. So then you go to 10 years, 8 years, you go through all these problems. You crying to God, man, can I give me a relationship? Can I do this? Now you're looking at it. Was this really worth it? Mind you, you can still learn things within the relationship. You know, just because it's bad doesn't mean anything, because God will still try to fix it, right? If both people are willing to be fixed. And they may not be. But like I said, when the worth came about, was it time to measure this up with God want, or measure it up with our hearts wanted? And a lot of times we measure it up with our hearts wanted. God probably wouldn't have cared if they only gave $1. It was the fact that they lied about what they had and lied about how they was giving. Like I said, they wanted to make it sound like they were giving everything when it really wasn't. They could have sold it for $100K and gave God $20. God would be like, oh, okay, that's what it is. That's what they're giving, right? But hey, whatever they reap, you're gonna reap like that. You're gonna sow like that. I mean, you sow like that, you can reap like that. So they could have sold bigger, they got a bigger blessing, right? But they wanted to make it seem like to the people, not realizing God is watching too. Peter's one of God's men. He watching, and you lie right in front of the face. Because Peter was like, "Hey, it ain't really about lying to me. It's about lying to God. Like, y'all gonna lie to God like that? Like, I tell you all the time, oh man, I couldn't come to church or this and that. They telling me the excuse. Hey, I ain't the one you gotta answer to. You answer to God, because I don't know what excuse you can tell somebody that can see everything, right? But that's how they'll look at it. So when you out here and you're thinking about whatever you're doing, whatever you're buying, whatever you get into, wherever you're going, wherever you work at, whatever you're doing today, do this value checklist. What's the value of it? Is it going to cost me time? Is it going to cost me possessions? Is it going to cost me money? Is it going to cost me a disconnect with God? Is it going to cost me this? Is it going to cost me that? Think about all the work you did, all the stuff that you built up. Is it going to cost you that? Etc. Right? And that's how you determine the value. That's how you determine the worth by its importance. And then you tell the importance to God. It's not about what you feel in your heart. It's not about what you desire. It's not about your pleasures, right? Because you can have pleasure and stuff and still be doing right with God. Like I said, God didn't want all their money. They just chose not to give God their money. They wanted to give him this portion. Then gave them the portion and still lost. That's what I'm saying. Just like Judas, you still give the portion and God still killed you, right? And it's not because of the portion size. It's because your intent and the purpose behind it, right? It was worth more to you to keep that money and lie about it and just tell the truth. Hey, yo, Peter, look, man, I'm trying to get my life together. I can't give you all the money. I got 10 for you. Cool. Hey, Peter, we sold the house for 100K, man. We sold the house for 20K. We got 20K for you, bro. Well, for real, yeah, we sold everything we got. We with the Lord. Mine should be looking back, about to go buy this new house or whatever because I got extra money. Well, you get extra money from, oh, God, just keep on blessing me, right? It wasn't worth it. So we got to think about all these things when you make a decision, who you talking to, right? Who you dealing with. Is it worth being in a relationship with this person? Is it worth fornicating, having sex with people? Is it worth doing these drugs? Is it worth watching porn? Or is anything's worth it? Right? You see everybody. I was talking to my brother about dirt bikes, and I said, I want a dirt bike. It's a childhood dream, right? It doesn't have the worth like everybody else do, but it worth something to me, right? The importance of me is just a leisure, keep me away from doing bad things, right? Almost like a toy. If I'm gonna play with my toys, I ain't doing bad things. My other brother was saying, man, the girls like the bikes. Girls like a lot of things, bro. I'm not buying a bike for no girl, but your purpose, right? Your intent's already bad, right? Not necessarily bad, but it's in a different direction. So you brought it for that purpose. I brought it for this purpose. Our purpose is on the line. So 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to hang with you. I'm not going to be with you, right? And I don't think we see it like that. Like I said, I was telling one of my friends, I say church is worth it to me. I can't miss church. God forbid, if God took my legs, hey, I'm in the hospital. Hey, I need some new legs. I got to go to church. Or let's say I was sick. It's Friday night. I'm still in the hospital. Hey, somebody bring my laptop. I got to do church somehow, some way, because that's worth it to me. That has real significant importance. So I don't want to miss church because I feel like I'll cry, right? I feel like I'll cry. I feel like I shame God to, and I've done some things that I'm pretty sure I've had shame for that God was like, ugh. But to me, that would be really bad if I just I went through the whole week, 24-hour days, and I couldn't give God an hour and a half. But I didn't watch this TV show. I didn't, spend all this time with my friends, did all this other stuff, and I couldn't give God 1 hour to teach, 1 hour to read, none of this stuff. I would feel really bad and really shameful. Sometimes I wake up and not praying, or I forget to pray or I forget to pray good night, go to sleep. I feel really bad. Like, man, I'm so sorry. I didn't pray. I'll pray 4 or 5 times just to try to make up for it, even though in God's brain, I don't think that's making up for it, but that's how I feel because that's how much shame and because how much important I think it is. So I try to put myself on the tighter schedule to make these things that I feel like is important. I got to make a routine. I got a checklist. Did I pray today? Did I do this? And it's not about trying to just be righteous and counting laws and counting deeds. It's just putting all the things that's important over the things that's not important. And when the things important happen, that's not important happen, that's cool too. Okay, I got to play my game, or I got to ride my dirt bike, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. That's cool. But all the important things should come first. I got to pay these bills. I got to go here. I got to go here. I got to do this. I got to do that. All that should come first. All the leisure come last, right? Let me get everything out God out the way. But I'm basing it off the worth that I determine which each thing is, right? And that's the same thing you should do. So that was today's lesson. Anybody got any questions, comments, or concerns? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Or you can speak later. It's fine too. All right. So no questions or comments or concerns. So that was today's lesson. I thank everybody for coming. I love everybody. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Hope everybody think about what's important to you, right? And then what's important to God, and do they match up and do they align? Also, this upcoming Saturday, which is May 30th, is the first day of summer, which we'll be having a feast. So I won't be on here at 10 o'clock. I'll be on here at 2 o'clock with my brother Eli. Those who are coming, I'll send out the invitation tomorrow. Everybody else that can't come and make it, you can see us on YouTube. So with that being said, I would say Shabbat Shalom, Shalom family, love and peace. And I will see you guys next week.